employment in the country, right? They do the same basic thing over and over again, so they feel the same emotions. So if you want to change your life and you want to be more assertive, get around more assertive people and model them. Take on their posture, move. It seems artificial and bullshit, but I'm sure you know that if you were to like fake laugh for a while, you know what happens is all of a sudden you start to really laugh. What I'm teaching, I do very intensely with people. We do it in immersion until it becomes automatic, until it becomes a part of you, like a habit. But even Harvard did a study. I've been teaching this 36 years. About, I think 3 years ago, a female professor at Harvard decided to research this, and she found that if all you did was stand, this is what you can do immediately at the end of this call. You can do it right now. Any of you want to do it. Stand with your hands on your hips, standing straight up, not sitting, but standing. I can't do it because the camera will be shooting me in the middle of the chest. But when you stand straight up like this, what will happen is if you stand that way for 2 minutes, like Superman, Wonder Woman, within 2 minutes, the testosterone in you, male or female, increases an average of 20%. And the cortisol, which is the stress hormone that stresses you out, drops 15% in 2 minutes. And all you're doing is standing like this, and you're 1/3 more likely to take action, be more assertive, do something you normally wouldn't do. So go stand.
The Monday night webinar. If I'm too loud or too quiet, let me know, but I think you should be able to hear me. Okay, so that was Tony Robbins, Psychology of Achievement and the Art of Fulfillment. So if you want to look that up on YouTube, he has some really amazing material. Good evening, everyone. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to go through a training, some of which you will have seen before if you've been in the business a while, some of which you probably haven't seen, but I'm going to cover most of the things that you'll need to do, probably all the things you will need to do to build your business. And this is going to take about 45 minutes. So, for those of you that haven't seen me before, or if you're brand new in the business, this is about, okay, I'll turn it up a little bit. This is about being familiar with a system. And let me know if that's too loud. This is about getting to know a system and understanding exactly what you need to do to make it work. So it's going to take about 45 minutes. I do recommend you take notes, but I'm going to put the slides of this training and 2 other trainings in the Global 10 Steps Facebook group. So this training plus I'm going to cross-reference it with 2 other trainings that I saw on the weekend, which I thought were fantastic. So you'll get all of this information in the Facebook group, but I recommend you take notes because that will help you assimilate the information. So I've been in the business. If you haven't seen me before, I've been in the business quite a long time, about 18 years. And we started like everybody else, aiming to make a bit of extra money. But since then, I've qualified for about 20 overseas conferences. I won the New Business Trophy 2011 and Distributor of the 2011, SED Trophy winner 2012, and Distributor of the Year 2015. I was also second in the Executive Trophy. But more importantly than that, the Executive Trophy was won by Abigail Coakley that year and Kev Ryder the following year, I think. So I think actually we won it about 3 years on the spin. And so not only have I built the business, but other people have built the business using the same system. And I'm really delighted to tell you that there are people who are building fantastic businesses right now in 2016 using the same system. So we don't need to change the system. I'm not interested in changing the system. What I'm interested in doing is refining what we do to make sure that we get the best possible outcome. I'm interested in seeing if we can improve. I'm always interested in that. And I'm interested in seeing how many people we can help achieve what we set out to achieve. This is what we really set out to achieve. The most important thing was that we designed this system, first of all, with Kev Ryder and Abigail Coakley in 2010, and then it was refined a couple of years later, and then I rewrote it at the beginning of this year. And it's designed, the primary reason is to create a system that delivers residual income, which includes predictable outcomes with zero risk. There is absolutely no risk to anybody who follows this system. You cannot possibly lose. So there's no risk, and that's very rare in businesses. Usually most businesses involve a lot of financial risk. But it is about duplication of a successful formula. Now, here's a lady who's just started, and this is my first recognition. This is Jenny March at the Cambridge meeting yesterday. Is Jenny on tonight? I don't know whether she's on. I think she is on. Yes, she is on. So well done to Jenny. In her first 4 weeks, she retailed her welcome rewards, the 10% level, which is £780 of orders. She then went past £1,000 of orders, and then she went past £1,500 of orders and got to 13%. So that's the first month in business. Now, this is colossal information for two reasons. First of all, massive well done to Jenny. But Jenny's not the only person that's done this since I've been in the business. Numerous people have done that in their first month. But here's the thing for your notes. If you asked me what percentage of people achieve that in their first month, I would say it's quite low. I couldn't put a figure on it, but it's probably maybe only 5%, may even be smaller than that. And that does not mean the other 95% didn't have the same opportunity. It just means that in this business, only 5% will take full advantage of the opportunity. That's just reality. But I firmly believe that anyone on this webinar in period 13 could achieve those same results. Many of you could do it quite easily because you've been in the business a long time. But that's happened every single year at various parts of the year. I've introduced loads of people myself over the years that have done it. But for your notes, it's only a minority of people that do what needs to be done. But if you didn't do it, the first thing you should do is to remove the illusion that it can't be done. And the first question you have to ask yourself is, why didn't you do it? Because I can promise you that people do this in the business every single month of the year in Clean Easy, right around the country. But not everybody does it. And in fact, it's kind of fascinating, actually. But I believe that everybody can do it. So well done to Jenny. For those of the rest of you that retailed maybe 1,000 or past £780 of orders, there's a file uploaded in the Global 10 Steps group on Facebook today. And you should go and look at that after this webinar. If you haven't seen it already, go and look at the information. And the reason why it's there is because it's actually extremely important, because it's the first building block of duplicating the 10-step system, is to put in place effective retail. And I put that in there today, and you'll see there's lots of people that did over first bonus. You don't have to do 1,500 quid. I'm just making the point that you can if you want. But everybody should put in 800 to £1,000 per period. Now, why do I say that? Well, here's why I say it. Because this is the first building block of a successful business, is for you to retail, and we teach about 1,000, and then to teach other people to do 1,000. But if you don't do it, how can you really teach other people to do it? So I believe that you should, first of all, retail 1,000, and then you can confidently say or show someone else what you've done. Now, in this illustration you see on the screen, this is based on a team of 10 people doing the same thing. Now, again, this is really, really a crucial building block in the business, but it's just a minimum example. It's not a maximum. So we don't say the maximum you should have is 10 active distributors wide. We say the minimum you should have is 10 wide. Because if you go to 12 wide, 15 wide, you'll find that it will self-fund the whole business. The whole business is self-funding, self-generating, self-expanding if you put in place the right foundation stones. So foundation stone number 1 is your retail. Foundation stone number 2 is working effective width in your business, which means introducing other people until you've got about 15 people active wide on your front line. And if you do that, you will be so excited and you will naturally find good people. So if you haven't done those 2 things, you need to start again. Here's someone who has done it, Emma Kiffin. And I have a quote from you from Emma Kiffin. And I saw this quote yesterday and I thought it was so good that I wish I'd thought of it myself, because it so accurately described what I did in the beginning of the business. And she says, fight to the end of every period. And that's such a fascinating choice of language. She says, fight to the end of every period. She didn't say plod along to the end of every period or just bumble along and do it at your own pace. She said, fight to the end of every period. If you won't fight for 10%, how can you fight for gold? If you won't fight for 10%, how can you fight for gold? See, that's such an amazing statement about our business, because I can remember how it was in the early days of my business, and I had to fight for every single inch that I got in the business. So ask yourself the question, how much are you prepared to fight? Are you prepared to fight for 10% every period? Because if you're not prepared to fight for 10% every period, how can you ever fight for gold? That's what Emma Kiffin says. That's her take. Bear in mind, she's someone who was a qualifying gold distributor. And you see this picture is when she was getting a check of a £1,500 bonus for maintaining gold. So she didn't just fight to get to gold. She also fought to work hard once she got there, which I did as well. And I can remember the 3 months following I went gold distributor, I scraped over the line by about 300 or 400 quid each period. But I did fight, because I was never, ever going to let it fall back. And that was my mentality. So if you haven't got some fight in your mentality, you need to change that. So that's Emma Kiffin. She also said, these are 2 more slides from her training. She also said, once she made the decision to get to gold, it only took her 3 months. Now, this lady has 2 young children. She started with the business when she was working full-time as a solicitor, crazy hours. But she got involved and she made the decision. And once she'd made that decision, it only took her 3 months. And again, this is not new material or new information. I've been telling people this for years. It takes 3 to 4 months to get to gold. And the biggest clue that I could possibly give you is the heading on this slide. She made a decision. And that's all you ever really have to do, is to make the decision that you're going to do it. And she did it. And then she maintained it. But her training is about mindset. And she said she had complete focus on the end result. She had a plan every day, every week, every period. She doubled the recommended minimum. The minimum in that instance is the number of leads. She doubled the leads. And she did personal development every day. And she had total commitment to the plan, and she became consistent. And she changed. And here's a book about mindset, interestingly enough. This is from Knowledge is King, and it's by David Ross. And this is the Knowledge is King book of the month, which is about mindset. You might want to get yourself that book. I get these books sent to me every month, and I read them, just going through the post of the weekend. So it's about your level of mindset. But remember, have you got the fight? And it's like Alan Moffat always used to say. This training was originally prepared for Alan Moffat, who earns about 15 grand a month. And he says that it's not the people in the fight that count. It's the fight in the people. So there you go. That'll give you a big clue. Now, this is why we created the 10 steps. It was actually created specifically for residual income and the level of bronze executive distributor. And the reason why that is because once you go and get 10 to 15 people active, you'll accumulate people over time. And some of those people will stay in the business a week, 3 days, 48 hours, 24 hours, 5 hours. Some of them will never take your phone calls again. But over time, you will accumulate people that do stay, and you'll accumulate people like Jenny March, and you'll accumulate lots of the people on this webinar who retail. They're on the Facebook group. Go and have a look. Go and have a look in the Facebook group tonight, and you'll see a list of people that have retailed past the bonus level. But make sure, if you're taking advice from people, make sure you take advice from the right people who are actually doing it. But the point is, if you go and get 10, 12, 15 people active wide, from there, you will be able to identify 2 people who are willing to duplicate the system, which means webinars, workshops, conferences, sharing the business with people every day. And if you help 2 people do what you've done, if you teach them to do what you've done, you duplicate the system and you earn a minimum of 30 grand a year. But that's as a residual income. And the key word there is residual, which means that you get that 30 grand a year, even if you're not working. And that's why we wrote the 10 steps. So the purpose of this is for you to understand the difference between linear income and residual. And the difference is very simply that in a linear income is like in a job where you trade your time for money. You work for 40 hours, they pay you for 40 hours. But if you stop working, they stop paying you. In this business, if you build what I'm showing you here, you keep earning even if you stop working. Now, next thing, here's someone who's done it this year using our system. Both of these examples that I'm showing you, Emma and Dave Kiffin and Tracy Payne and Harvey Kent, the reason why I'm showing them to you is I asked them to do a training yesterday at Cambridge because I knew that they adopted this system about a year ago in full, and they teach it lock, stock and barrel to their teams, and they duplicate it. And Tracy has gone from 15 grand a month to 43,000 a month, and her check is now £3,800 a month. But it's residual income, which is amazing. That's like 200% growth from 15 grand to 43 grand over the course of a year by following the 10 steps. They don't follow anything else. They don't go and listen to other people that might be doing something different. They just followed the system. And you know what's really fascinating about Emma Kiffin and Tracy Payne is they go to more meetings than anyone I know, with the possible exception of Adele Hewitt, whose business has also grown. But they go to loads of meetings because they have people around the country, and when they've got people plugging in, they go to the meetings where those people are. Excuse me. So, from 15 grand to 43 grand, and a check of 3,800. Now, why am I showing you that? I'll tell you why I'm showing you that. Is because before Tracy and Harvey adopted the 10 steps, they were working with my upline, Rob Foster. They're not in my team, and they followed his system for years and years and years and years, and never got past gold distributor. Not really. Never got past the turnover of about 12 to 15 grand. They were stuck for years and years and years until they changed to the 10 steps. And now the business is flying. And I'm going to tell you what Tracy said in that meeting. Here's a quote I wish I thought of myself. You can't have $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic. See, I wish I could have sat up all night and I never would have come up with that. But it's so relevant for our business because I see people coming into the business and they want to make a lot of money. And she was brilliant. And they want to make a lot of money, and they set goals, so supposedly, and they approach it with an employee mentality, or as it says here, a minimum wage work ethic. And I believe that success does leave clues. And I believe that if your business isn't moving forward fast enough, it's either because you haven't got enough fight in you, you haven't got the right attitude, you haven't got the right level of purpose, or you come into the business with an employee mentality and you're just kind of going through the motions, doing a minimum. Well, you'll never get there doing the minimum, you know. And I know how hard Tracy and Harvey work and how dedicated they are to the business. And I'm thrilled to bits for them, actually, that they've had the success they're having. And partly the reason for telling you this is that next year they will be running the Bristol meeting. So if you've got people coming into Bristol, that meeting is going to be run by Tracy Payne next year. She said that you need to be consistent and persistent and develop the right daily habits. And she also said that you should treat sponsoring like you would the retail, because we kind of always talk about being consistent with the retail, but she says also that you should be consistent with sponsoring and work the numbers and use the tools and develop your skills and your mindset, which I've already covered. She also said the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. So if you don't go quickly, no one else is going to go quickly. If you go flat, everyone else is going to go flat. If you don't show up at the meetings, no one else is going to show up at the meetings. That's your responsibility. So the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. And if you look at their business, Tracy's business, she's just gone bronze. She's gone from gold to bronze in the last couple of months. But she has 2 more legs in her PSG. Her PSG, she has 19 grand in her PSG, where she's got 2 more legs waiting to pop out next year. That's because she's gone fast and she doubled her numbers. And I know how many leads she gets. She's in my ad pool. And all she's doing is following the system. That's all. So what is the system? She did a specific training on step 2. So step 1, for those of you that are taking notes or haven't been on one before, haven't been to a meeting yet. Step 1 is to learn and follow the whole system. So maybe we should start there. But what that really means is you need to get the workbook, a bound copy. You need to get it off the website, download it, print it, and you need to study the workbook. And you need to read it thoroughly, like 4 or 5 times, until you know it inside out, back to front, upside down, until you feel like you are an expert in the system. Because if you feel that you're an expert in the system, you can confidently teach it to other people. But if you've never read the bloody thing, then the chances are you'll be a lousy sponsor and you will be a lousy leader in the business. So number 1, retail 1,000 and learn the system. Number 2, step 2 is personal and professional development. Because if you put garbage in to your head, you get garbage out. And I see sometimes people getting garbage results, and I know what they're putting in. I can see what they're putting out. You need to do step 2. Here's a slide showing 10 books. It's changed actually since this slide was done. But in reality, if you go to the workbook, you download the workbook, you can see the new books. The new books are How to Create the Mindset of a Network Marketing Champion and Facebook for Network Marketing. So you need to answer the 10 questions on each book, and you need to study the material until you are an expert. And do you know what's interesting? Emma Kiffin, before she was in Clean Easy, she was a solicitor, and she had to train for years and years and years just to get the possibility of earning about 35 grand a year. Well, I wouldn't get out of bed to 35 grand a year. I wouldn't even think twice about 35 grand a year. It's beneath me. But she was a trained solicitor, and that's what she had to train for years to get to 35 grand a year. If you train in this business and you read the books we teach you to read and you teach it to other people, you can make a fortune, not 35 grand a year. So is step 2 worth doing? It is the most important step. Step 3 is goal setting and planning. And we recommend that you have some goals in place. And this again was covered by both Emma and Tracy as part of personal development. And the reality is you need to have goals which get you up early and keep you up late. And goals that make you anxious about the outcome. Goals that stretch you. Here's a quote from Wayne Dyer. He says, dormant forces, faculties and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. Now, my question to you is, what if that's true? What if by setting yourself some big, scary goals which really challenge you, which really stretch you. In the course of doing that, you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. What if that's true? Wouldn't that be a good project for you for the next year of your life? So you need to dare to dream. You need to dream big. But remember what Tracy Payne said, there's no point in dreaming big if you've got minimum wage mentality. You need to have a really strong reason why. And they both talked about this. And I'll put the slides in the group. And I've talked about this a lot before. But you need to have a strong reason why to keep your motivation high. And the reason why I say that is just now I said that only about 5% do what needs to be done. And those 5%, what's the difference? The difference is the 5% are highly motivated and the other 95% are not. It's that simple. You need to have burning desire. And in fact, Emma Kiffin talked about burning desire. And you need to make a promise to yourself. Now, the key thing here is you're not working for other people. You're not working for Clean Easy. You're not working for your upline. It's nothing to do with Clean Easy. It's nothing to do with your upline. You're working for yourself. So you have to develop enough self-worth to feel good about yourself and to make a promise to yourself not to quit. This is from Tony Robbins, and you just heard him on the video just now. I'm going to go through this really quickly. But when I was telling you about Tracy Payne being stuck at the same position year after year after year, and it is quite a few years, I don't know how many exactly, but she could easily have quit. She could have quit the business before she got residual income. There's no way she'd ever quit now. So here's a tip for you. Gold distributors come and go. Gold distributors are 10 a penny. Gold distributors don't get residual income. Bronze executives do. So everyone should have a reason why they want to build the business to bronze exec and above. Because if you know your outcome, if you're clear about your outcome, where you want to be, that gives you power. And if you know your reason why, you will then take massive action. If you then monitor what you're getting and you adjust your plan as you need to, and you change your approach until you get it done, you can get it done. But if you don't have those things in place, you'll never ever build to bronze exec and beyond. Here's a ladder, and it's not a bed. Gold distributor, I've already covered it. You should have a plan to do it in about 3 or 4 periods. No longer. If it's not longer than 3 or 4 periods, there's no urgency. That's a quote from Emma Kiffin. So here's us in Malaysia, parasailing. If you want to go parasailing, the company will enable you to do that. If you want to go on elephant safari, they'll take you to do that. If you want to go to places like New York, Miami, they'll take you to do that. So where do you want to go? Where do you want to spend time? You want to go to Dubai? That's a photograph of us in Dubai with the team. Here's how you do it. Step 4 is you must have an automated 24/7, 365 days a year lead generation program. And the 10-step system teaches you how to do that. And I'm not going to go through into a lot of detail with this, except to say these numbers here that you see, 50, 10, 2, as stated in the manual, are the minimum numbers that people should aim for. And for those of you that are not sure, I recommend you either go online and type the word minimum into Google or get a dictionary and look up the definition of the word minimum, because I think some people don't understand it. Minimum is 50. I recommend you put a 1 in front of it and get 150 leads a week, which is what Tracy and Emma did. They doubled their lead generation. And here's a note, here's a footnote to that. I recommend that you do that through paid advertising. And there are reasons why I recommend paid advertising. But here's the first one and most important one. You can get thousands of leads these days on things like Facebook. You can have free advertising. You can have word of mouth. All of that is fantastic. But here's why I recommend you have paid advertising. And the paid advertising doesn't have to be with me. It could be with big advertising, private eye, advert anywhere. There's loads of companies out there. Try them all if you want. Jamie DeCasso, whoever you want. The reason why it's so important, I believe, to have paid advertising is because it's a measure of your commitment and your belief in your ability to build your future. In other words, if you're saying, yes, 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 I'm going to build a business. Yes, 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 I want to be bronze exec. Yes, 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 I want to be SED. Oh no, I'm not going to spend any money on it. You see, one doesn't fit the other. And people email me sometimes and say, can they miss a month's advertising? Can they reduce it from 100 a month to 50 a month? Or they can't afford it at the moment, they're going to drop out of the ad pool and they're just going to do Facebook. And I think, do you know what? When I started advertising in the business, I was 100 grand in debt. I had people threatening to take my house away. I had bailiffs knocking at the door. And you know, the first bill I paid was my advertising bill. Why? Because it was the only way I was going to get out of the situation I was in. So to me, advertising is a measure of your commitment. We don't use phone numbers. We use capture pages, websites. And the reason why this is here is because I believe that you should, if you're using Facebook, you can waste a huge amount of time messaging people on Facebook. But I believe if someone's really looking, they will go to your website and visit your website and leave their details. So I always build a database. And if you do that, you can then email market them forever. Excuse me, I think I'm losing my voice here. So if you build a database, you can use those leads that you pay for £1, which is nothing, incidentally. It's less than I paid when I started, to put it in perspective. But if you buy 100 leads for £100 a month, for example, and you do that for a year, you'll actually have probably, 1,200 leads? Well, though, you can use those leads over and over and over again. And you can email people videos, stories, copies of checks until they buy or they die. And if you get good at that, if you read a book called How to Write Sales Letters by Yannick Silver, which is like a marketing book, it would even tell you how to write the emails. That's how I did it last year. Got 150 people in. Most of them came from emails. So once we've got step 4 in place, which is lead generation, and once we've understood the difference between minimum and maximum, the minimum is 50 leads a week. I recommend you go for 150 a week. And if you do that, you'll have more leads than you can handle. And if you have more leads than you can handle, you'll get really, really good at this process. If you get really, really good at step 5, which is the telephone process, it becomes easy to build the business. And we give you a script for that. But the key to it is to dive in. It's a bit like learning to swim. Or if you want to, you know the saying about war, if you want to take the island, you burn the boats. My best advice to you is to get as many leads as you can possibly handle and then get on the phone and don't worry about the rest. The rest will take care of itself. So step 5 is the telephone process. But what it means is you actually have to communicate with other human beings using the telephone, not text messages, not Messenger, whatever it is. Why is that important? The reason why it's important is because of the person it makes you become. And again, this was covered yesterday, actually. This was covered by Emma. And she said, when you set the goals and you go after the goals, it's much more important to understand that it changes you as a person and it's about who you can become. Well, let me tell you what will happen. If you get lots of leads and you get on the phone and you use the script and you use the system and you work with your upline, what will happen is that you will become a more confident person and you will be able to control the conversation and relate to the other person and finalize the next step. That will happen automatically if you get busy with it. But if you've only got 5 people to ring you ain't even got time to practice. So you need to get loads of leads, and then you will become, first of all, competent and then confident in your ability to build the business. And the most important thing is that you build your own self-belief. And that's what this system will do. Number 6 is showing people the business. And for your notes, I recommend that you show at least one person the business every single day. Because if you only play at it and you only show one a week, you'll never get it off the ground. If you show one person a day the business, it's inevitable that you will find good people. So step 6 is showing the business, and it's really simple. If they like the videos, they like you, which means they have a good conversation with you, and they understand that there's a support program, they will buy the kit. But the key to number 6 and number 5, the key to understanding step 5 and step 6 of the 10 steps program is to make sure that you get step 4 in place. In other words, every step affects every other step. If you've only got 5 leads a week, it doesn't matter how good you are on the telephone or showing the business, you'll never build a business. If you've got 150 leads a week, you could be totally useless on the phone and still build a business. So every step affects every other step. So if you get loads of leads, you'll get good at step 5, which makes step 6 very, very easy. This is one of the rewards we had. This is we got a brand new Mini Cooper in 2007, which was like an 11 grand bonus, I think it was back then. And I didn't take the car. I didn't take delivery of the car. I sold it back to the dealer over the telephone and just went and picked up a check for 11 grand instead. I did make a special journey to the dealership, though, to pick up the money. Here's a quote, though, from Jim Rohn. At that time, at the end of that period, we actually went to Disney World, Florida, took our kids to Florida, because we'd cleared all the debt, the 100 grand of debt that I was in when I started. We paid off. And it just proves Jim Rohn's point, which is, it's not what happens to you that determines the outcome. It's what you do about it and what you learn from it. And everybody should write that down, because in reality, it doesn't really matter where you are or what's happened to you. It's what you do about it and what you learn from it that makes the difference. So wherever you are today, you can improve. And wherever you are today financially, you can sort it. But you have to be prepared to do all the things that we're telling you. We also got a brand new BMW after driving sheds of cars for years. We've been all over the world. I'm not going to cover this in a lot of detail. 20 trips worldwide. Actually, I will just tell you where we've been. We've been to Australia twice, South Africa, Malaysia, Thailand, the Maldives, Mauritius, Dubai, Miami, New York, Cannes, Rome and Florence for my birthday, Budapest, my first conference where I spoke. We've been literally all over the world. We qualified for Madrid. We didn't go to Madrid, but we qualified for Madrid. We've been all over with the company, and we've had fantastic holidays as well as a family. And I feel really privileged actually to be in the business and to have experienced those things with the people that we went there with. And in reality, the world is your oyster. It's up to you to go out and grab it. Step 7 is the online registration, and this can simply be summarized as the fortune is in the follow-up. And just as a tip, I think I'm losing my voice here. Just as a tip, never ever allow people to phone you back. Just say, look, I'm really busy. If they want to think about it, just say, look, I'm really busy. I'm in and out. I'll give you a call tomorrow. So you always phone them. Never ever wait for them to phone you, because they don't phone you. If they do phone you, you can count it as a bonus. But you can't build a business on people ringing you back. You need to follow up, especially in the beginning of the business. So keep them on the phone until it's completed. Get them to understand that it's a business, not a job, and that it's going to take a few months to build the customer base, and then get them to come to workshops and webinars, etc. So stay on the phone, and remember this for your notes. When people say to you, oh yeah, it looks really good, you've shown them the business, and they say, oh yeah, it looks fantastic. I'm really excited about this. I'm definitely joining when I get paid on the 28th of the month. When they say that to you, that's a no. That's a no. Write that down in your notes. A yes is a yes, and everything else is a no. So when they say yes, I'm going to join, and you ring them back the next day, and they don't take your phone call or whatever, or they say they're going to join next week and they don't join, that's because a yes is a yes, which is when they've paid their money, then you know it's a yes. Everything else is a no. And if you adopt that attitude, you won't get disappointed, because I never ever counted my chickens. If someone said to me they were definitely joining next week, I went straight on, made some more phone calls till I found someone that wanted to join today. So a yes is a yes, and everything else is a no. And don't be phased out by people. It's just that they don't want to say no to you because they think they're going to hurt your feelings, even if they like you. And you will have conversations with people, and you will think that you're getting on really, really well. You're having fantastic rapport, and they want to do it. They say yes all the way through. They just can't do it right now because they've got to talk to their partner or whatever. And then you ring them back, and they don't take the call, or they disappear, or whatever. It's just people, and it's because they don't want to give you the rejection. They don't know how to say no, basically. And my advice to you is to always make sure that you have loads of leads in place, so that when someone does say no, or they don't take your call, or they disappear, or whatever, you don't have enough time to dwell on those things, because you've always got more people to ring, and you don't get detached to any individual prospect. In other words, if you have 10 people to show the business, why would you worry about which ones are going to join? It's kind of irrational. Have 10 people that you're going to show the business to, and then, what do you care if it's number 3 or number 7? It doesn't make any difference. If you've only got 2 people to show, or 1 person to show, and they don't join, then you're disappointed. But if you've got 10, it doesn't matter which ones join. I always leave that to them. That's for them to worry about. It's not for me to worry about. Even when I was really skint, I never used to worry about which ones were going to join. I was never anxious about the outcome. You can detach yourself completely from the outcome of each individual prospect. Don't even worry about the result of each appointment. The only thing you need to be concerned about is, have you got enough leads to get enough appointments? That's the only concern you should ever have. Step 8 is getting started, which is an induction step, and it's all about being a giver, not a getter, which means that what we have to do is explain that we're there to help, and we have to build trust, and we do that by listening to the new person. And some people don't want to do this, apparently. Some people don't like this. I recommend you do it on Skype, and I recommend you make a friend of the person that you sponsor, and you give them your absolute best for like half an hour to 45 minutes max. But the way you do that is by listening to them, making a friend of them, and remembering to be a go-giver, not a go-getter, because they don't work for us, we work for them, and it's about building a relationship with a new person and really trying to understand them. And if you do all of that, if you give them the right advice and you help them as much as possible, and then they don't come through, that's life. But as long as you've given your best to them, that's all you can ever do. And I wouldn't worry if they say they're going to come to the meeting and they don't book in. If they say they're going to come on the webinar and they don't book in, that's them. I'm not worried about that. I've given them my best, and as long as I keep giving my best, then I will inevitably receive the rewards that I want. I also recommend that you give more. once the people have started and they're up and running, if they are willing and they're posting adverts and they're putting orders on and they're getting started and getting on with it, I recommend that you give them more of your time and you give them a weekly review to coach them in the system. And if you don't do that, you're just throwing mud at a wall. And you can do that as well if you want. There are people that have built huge businesses without doing coaching, but you will need to sponsor a couple hundred people a month. A couple hundred people a year if you want to do that. So either way will work, but it's better, in my opinion. It's a kind of wasted human resource if we don't tap into the potential of the people that we introduce. And the thing to do is believe in the potential of the people that you bring in, and you can give them a weekly review if they're activated in the business. Step 9 is promotion of events. Now, here's the thing about promotion of events. It maybe we should have just called it attending and promoting events, because if you can't fight for 10%, how can you fight for gold? If you can't attend the events, all of the events, how can you really promote them? And it always amazes me when people make the same old worn out excuses month after month, year after year as to why they don't go to meetings. But you know what? It's absolutely fine with me. It's like water off a duck's back to me, but they'll never build a business. And unless you're attending and promoting events, you will not build the business. End of. Tracy Payne and Emma Kiffin have probably attended more events than anyone else that I know in the network. And they've got fantastic growth in their business. And the reason why it's important is that most of the people you introduce will not value the opportunity sufficiently until they've met other people doing it successfully. Emma Kiffin had a guy at the last couple of events who's gone bronze executive in about gone gold distributor in about 3 months himself in Emma Kiffin's team, and he sponsored 25 people into the business last month. So she's at all the events, he's at all the events, and he's getting his people to all the events. That's how it works. And if you want to change that, my advice to you would be to go and see a psychiatrist, because it isn't going to work unless you get that in place. People need social proof. People go flat, so they need to keep doing it. As soon as people stop coming to events, coming to meetings, you can tell they're off track, and it's a very slippery slope. That's the way to look at it. And people don't even know their own minds. So for their own good, we need to show leadership by attending and promoting all events. And the final step is leadership, duplication and coaching. But a requirement of that is that we do it ourselves all the time. And in reality, if you look at the successful people, they don't miss events. Tracy Payne, she must have been to more events this year. It's incredible, actually. Same with Emma Kiffin. And I keep mentioning them is because they've got phenomenal growth in their business. And all they've done is follow this system and then teach it to other people. So here's a few things that they would never do. They never, ever put negative downline. They never, ever put negative things on their timeline on Facebook. Not ever. And they are two of the most positive and enthusiastic people I know. And they're fantastic examples to follow. And who can do that? And the answer is anybody who chooses to. There's lots of different things about leadership, but in reality, all you've got to do is learn the system, follow the system, implement the system, and then show other people what you've learned. And who can do that? Anybody who wants to. Anybody who makes the decision can do that. But you've got to make the decision if you're going to be a leader. And then a large part of it is encouraging other people, because they come into the business and they're low on belief, low on confidence, and we've got to nurture them until they become more confident. And finally, 3 magic ingredients for your business. Number one, enthusiasm, which means not just going through the motions, but actually channeling your passion into your business. So what do you feel most passionate about? What would get you up early and keep you up late? And you need to put that into everything you do in the business, which they do. If you go and listen to Tracy Payne, she's always enthusiastic. And if you look at Emma Kiffin, I know she's worked hard. I know she's battled and battled and battled. And I haven't had a lot of conversations with her, but I've had a few conversations with her. And I've just reassured her that she just needs to keep battling. And now she's got a guy sponsoring like 20, 25 people a month in her business. And also, finally, as well as being enthusiastic and determined, you need to be patient, which doesn't mean sitting around waiting for someone good to come along to build you a future or build you a fortune. In fact, that will never work in our business. If you're sat there crossing your fingers hoping to get a good person, or if you're sat there hoping that or wishing it was easier, it's never ever getting any easier. Let me tell you that. This business isn't getting easier, it's getting better actually, but it gets better when you get better. So don't wish it was easier, wish you had more skill, wish you were a better leader, wish you were a better coach, and work at those things and go and make things happen consistently and persistently. And being patient just means doing it long enough to get paid. Ask Tracy Payne if she's had to be patient, who was gold distributor for about 5 years and never moved forward another position on the plan. Now, you can argue that was because they had the wrong system. And that's partly why I'm showing you this system. It's because the system is phenomenal. I don't want to change any aspect of the system. I'm not interested in changing this system. This system is bloody brilliant. And I've shown you 2 examples of people that have followed it, but there's numerous others. There's the Hanlons in Scotland that have just gone gold, having never been anywhere near it before. There's people all around the country, the ones that have actually followed it and implemented it. So you don't have to be that patient. You just need to get on with it and realize that everything that you've ever needed to create your future is in place. But it does take time. And what I mean by patience is we all want everything now, but sometimes we have to wait. And sometimes we have to do a lot of work before we get our reward. But do you know what that means? It means that when you actually get the reward, it makes it even more satisfying when you've done it. And that's the mindset and the mentality you need to adopt. You need to be enthusiastic, positive, determined, and you need to fight for every single inch of the journey if necessary. And then when you've done it, then you get the satisfaction. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for listening. It includes the 10 Steps webinar. I hope you found it useful. I'll put the trainings in the Facebook group. If you have any questions,